name is Michael Scofield. My brother is facing the electric chair, framed for a crime he didn't commit. After his appeals were exhausted, I knew there was only one way to get him out. I'm getting you out of here.
It's impossible.
Not if you design the place, it isn't.
You've seen the blueprints?
Better than that. I've got him on me. Just have a little faith. The vault. Open it.
We can't. The branch manager's not here.
I am robbing this bank, but after getting the $500,000, I wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, I deliberately started chatting with the bank teller. A large number of police officers quickly surrounded the bank. I raised my hands very calmly. There was not a single trace of panic. Because all of this was part of my plan. In court, facing the judge's trial, I didn't make any defense for myself. This completely baffled my good friend and lawyer, Veronica. I am a structural expert at one of the world's top architectural design firms. I am very wealthy. She couldn't understand why I would go rob a bank, but I just didn't want to get her involved in this matter. Finally, the judge sentenced me to 10 years in prison for armed robbery. I would be sent to serve my time at the maximum security Fox River State Penitentiary. Most of the inmates locked up there are vicious and dangerous criminals. However, after hearing this sentence, I actually felt very satisfied, because this was exactly the outcome I had hoped for. Just after arriving at the prison, I met the second in command of the prison, Bellick. Inside this prison, the guards possess absolute authority, just like God. Bellick warned me to be a well-behaved inmate. Otherwise, I would face terrifying consequences. I quietly observed everything happening in the prison. An atmosphere of violence, crime, and despair permeated the entire place. Even with a guard escorting us, the lives of the inmates were still not guaranteed. The chaotic environment inside the prison was even more treacherous than I had anticipated. However, for the sake of my plan, I had to face it head-on. The next morning, my cellmate Sucre took advantage of yard time to brief me on the prison situation. This place is divided into many different gangs. The black inmates occupy the basketball court, while the white inmates dominate the workout equipment. He also warned me never to provoke the guards. Otherwise, my life would be in constant danger. That old man holding a cat is Cooper, the master thief who stole $5 million 40 years ago. The guy walking over right now is known as the department store. You can buy absolutely anything from him. Sucre was introducing everything with great enthusiasm, but my attention was not on any of these things. I asked if they knew a guy named Lincoln. Sucre told me that Lincoln is the most dangerous inmate in the prison. Not long ago, he assassinated the vice president's brother. He is scheduled to be executed by the electric chair in 35 days. Sucre specifically warned me not to have any contact with Lincoln. Otherwise, my life would be in danger. But my answer instantly threw him into a panic.
Because he's my brother.
We were abandoned by our parents when we were little. My older brother Lincoln took on the responsibilities of a father. He earned money to support the family and pay for my college education. I firmly believe that he was framed by someone. My purpose for deliberately going to prison this time is to break my brother Lincoln out. The next day, while no one was looking, I slowly walked toward the bleachers in the prison yard. I began to look for the item I wanted. I didn't want anyone to notice anything unusual, so I was extremely careful throughout the entire process. Fortunately, after searching for a while, I finally found what I was looking for, a long screw. The serial number on this screw was exactly the same string of numbers from my tattoo. Long before I went to prison, I had specifically recorded the dimensions of this screw. The size of this screw makes it perfect for grinding down into a wrench. I immediately took out a coin and began unscrewing it, while vigilantly keeping an eye on my surroundings. Even though I had been extremely cautious, an unexpected incident still occurred. The most psychotic inmate in the entire prison, Teabag, suddenly appeared right in front of me. The area where this screw was located happened to be his territory. He told me that the prison was a very dangerous place, and if I held on to his pocket, he could keep me safe. I decisively rejected Teabag's offer.
I said no.
And you best move then. Now.
Left with no other choice, I had to temporarily abandon my plan to get the screw. I decided to first figure out a way to contact my brother, Lincoln. So I sought out the mafia boss, John. Lincoln usually worked in the prison industry, and the person in charge of the prison industry was none other than John. I asked John to assign me to work in the industry and handed him an origami crane. John didn't understand what this meant at all. He thought I might be an idiot. so his henchman immediately stood up and chased me away. I told him that he would definitely come looking for me again. Then I calmly turned around and walked away. The next day, the mafia boss, John, received a phone call from his subordinates outside the prison. They had received a letter. Inside was a photograph. The person in the photo was exactly the target John had been looking for. That man held evidence of John's crimes. John had always wanted to eliminate him. At the same time, they also found an origami crane inside the envelope. Upon hearing about the origami crane, John suddenly remembered me. He instantly realized that I must have arranged for someone to mail this letter. That afternoon, John had a guard deliver a work pass for the prison industry. I finally saw my brother, Lincoln. Lincoln was extremely angry. He couldn't understand why I had gotten myself thrown into prison. I immediately told him everything about my prison break plan.
Getting outside these walls, that's just the beginning. You're gonna need money.
I looked over at John and Cooper nearby. I had already planned all of this out in advance. John has a private jet that can take us far away. Cooper has $5 million. This money is enough, so we will never have to work again. Furthermore, I told him that this prison had just undergone renovations recently, and the contractor was the very company I worked for. I am intimately familiar with the structural design of the entire prison. Just as Lincoln was processing this, I had already taken off my shirt, revealing my body full of tattoos. To better execute the prison break plan, I had the blueprints of the entire prison tattooed onto my body beforehand. My brother was instantly stunned when he saw it. The next day, I told my brother that we had to bring another person along for the escape, namely, Sucre, who had just gotten out of solitary confinement.
Sucre? You can't be serious. The guy's a thief, Michael. He can't be trusted.
I'm gonna have to trust him because he's my cellmate.
I knew very well in my heart that if he didn't join us, I wouldn't be able to carry out any escape-related actions in the cell. However, I wasn't sure if Sucre was trustworthy, so I wanted to put him to a test. While we were working, I purposely showed him a cell phone carved out of soap. He was completely shocked by this. He said that hiding a cell phone could add 3 years to my sentence. I left without saying a word. Then I had my brother purposely find Captain Bellick, the head guard, and tip him off in exchange for cigarettes, saying Sucre seemed to be hiding a phone. Bellick felt that, true or false, he needed to investigate it further. So he immediately tracked down Sucre. He used the threat of revoking his visitation rights with his girlfriend to coerce him into talking about the phone. I knew he valued his girlfriend more than his own life. I needed to use this to test if he was truly someone I could trust. In the end, he didn't sell me out. This whole ordeal made him incredibly furious. While the guards weren't around, he angrily confronted me. He wanted to borrow my phone to call his girlfriend, but after I handed the phone to him, he suddenly realized that it was actually a fake phone made of soap.
Soap? I lost my conjugals over soap?
You may have lost your conjugals, but I can do you one better. I can get you to her.
It wasn't until this moment that Sucre finally realized he had been tested. I now knew that he was a trustworthy person. I then unreservedly told him all about my prison break plan. I very amicably invited him to join the escape crew. I absolutely never expected him to be extremely outraged by this. He was originally sent to prison for robbery, and he would be released in just 18 months after serving his time. There was no way he would take such a risk with us. Sucre immediately went back to the cell and started packing his belongings. He requested a cell transfer from the guards. He was worried that my escape plan would drag him down. I tried hard to persuade him to stay, but he still chose to leave. The next day, I encountered something even more despairing. Because Sucre had moved out, Bellick deliberately assigned me a new cellmate. This guy was specifically handpicked by him from the psychiatric ward.
You got a problem with that? Because if you do, please, feel free to drop it in my suggestion box here.
I felt an overwhelming sense of despair. The so-called suggestion box was just the toilet. This undoubtedly showed Bellick's attitude. Even with all my dissatisfaction, I could only endure it in silence, looking at the terrifying and bizarre gaze of my new cellmate. I had no choice but to accept all of this. The time finally came to late at night. The cell was so quiet that only the sound of breathing could be heard. This was the perfect opportunity to make a move. I carefully took out the screw. Just as I was about to dismantle the toilet, I suddenly noticed that something wasn't right. When I turned my head around, I suddenly realized that the psychiatric cellmate was staring dead at me.
What's your problem?
I got a neuroanatomic lesion affecting my reticular activating system.
What does that mean?
It means I don't sleep at all.
Facing this monster who never needs to sleep, my prison break plan was completely thrown into chaos.
But I can't watch him die. I won't do that.
Man killed the vice president's brother.
I don't have a choice. You do.
swear to me.
I swear to you, Mike.
Come on.